So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to open the Chaos Box first and then the Mystery Power Box. I'm just going to flip through the cards really quick. Normally I take the time to go through commentary on each and every individual card. I'll do that after we open all the packs, and then we'll discuss what cards were my favorite from the packs, what cards are useful, maybe underrated. I do a lot of underrated card picks on my socials. You can find me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. There's multiple places you can find me. Recreated Recreation. Alright, I've opened one of these so far of the 2026 version of the Chaos Box. We got an Edge of Eternities booster. Last time that turned out great. Foundations, I love it. Really cool set. Duskmourn. I haven't gotten one of these in the last one. Aether Drift. These are kind of thrown everywhere. I actually like the set. This is when they transferred from the 36 boosters in a pack to 30. So I think that combined with it feeling kind of like a gimmicky set, a lot of people didn't receive it as well. And then we got a Bloomburrow booster. And we also got the Goose Mother. That's a cool card. Foil. Since this is a promo, this might actually be worth money because the Goose Mother, I believe, is worth a little bit. So that's cool. We're just going to start with what I am least excited about. This bunch of cards makes it kind of tough. We'll start with Aether Drift. All right, Aether Drift. Let's go. Gibrick Omnivore, Spectral Interference, Spectacle Scouter, Endrider Catalyzer, Grim Bobble, Wreck Remover, Wreckage Wickerfolk, Detention Chariot, Carnolia Coral Tyrant, Rocketeer Boost Buggy, Pace Setter Paragon, Medicant Core Guidelight, Spire Mech Cycle, Blossoming Sands, and a Vehicle / Chandra Emblem / Token. Alright, next we have, let's go, it's a shame because I like all these sets. Let's go Duskmourn. I've barely opened any Duskmourn. I'm about to actually sell. I have a listing on Facebook Marketplace for my Duskmourn boosters that I currently own. Gremlin Manifest, Blood Farm Verge, Plains, Undead Sprinter, Alantak the Prince Called, Stay Hidden, Stay Silent, One of the Rooms, Defiled Crypt and Cadaver Lab, Conductive Machete, Cautious Survivor, another One of the Rooms, Meat Locker and Drowned Diner, Winter's Intervention, Acrobatic Cheerleader, Murder, Turn Inside Out, Jump Scare. Alright, we're going to separate that from our Aether Drift booster for when we read the cards. Boom, separate. Now, I really like Foundations, so I'll save that for last. I know most people prefer Edge of Eternities, but I prefer Bloomburrow, although I haven't really opened many great things in Bloomburrow. So let's just go with Edge of Eternities, see what we open up with here. Alright. Drone and Lander. Okay. Starport Security, Peregrine Beckoner, Kyrogen Relic, Galactic Wayfarer, Caravan Skywarden, Embrace Oblivion, Command Bridge, Seed Ship Impact, Dubious Delicacy, Ruinous Rampage, Gigastorm Titan, the Dominion Bracelet, Cryogen Relic, and the Foil Mountain. I know that bracelet's worth some money. Alright, let's go Bloomburrow. After I do all of the unopenings, I'm going to read each card individually. I don't know every card in all the sets like some people do, so I like to take the time and actually study the cards. Consumed by Greed, Mountain, Darkstar Augur, Stalking the Pantry, Mouse Trapper, Three Tree Scribe, Harnesser of Storms, Pawn Prophet, Three Tree Root Weaver, I believe there was one of those already, Might of the Meek, Runaway Together, Agate Blade Assassin, Wax Wayne Witness, and Dire Downdraft. Alright, that's our Bloomburrow booster. Foundations. Zombie. And Rat. Okay. Sure Strike. Fake Your Own Death. Bite Down. Fleeting Distraction. Make Your Move. Icewind Elemental. Sanguine Siphoner. Savannah Lions. Wardens of the Cycle. Self-Reflection. Felling Blow. Alicia Who Laughs at Fate. I love that card. Awesome. Vanishing Light, Swamp. I don't have an Alicia, so that's an excellent addition to my collection. All right, Mystery Power Box. If there is one of the older boosters, I will probably check and see what it's worth sealed compared to what it's worth unopened, especially because I don't know a lot of the values of those cards that could be in those packs. So let's open it up, see what we get. All right, our promo, Welcoming Vampire, awesome. We got a Dominaria Busta da 15 card. So this must be the Italian pack, okay? We got a Masters 25, and we got an Innistrad Crimson Vow. Okay, I know that Crimson Vow must not be worth much. You know what? I'm not even going to take the time to research what these are worth sealed. I'm just going to open them because I know that there's not like a Legends pack or anything, like anything before 1980. So we're just going to start with Crimson Vow because I think that's the least valuable out of these 3 packs. And then we'll open the Italian one, and then we'll open up the Masters 25. All right. Art Mountain, Bloody Betrayal, Ceremonial Knife, Blood Servitor, Bleed Dry, Rending Flame, Wandering Mind, Radiant Grace, Lantern Bearer, Unholy Officiant, Howling Moon, Consuming Tide, Orzava, the Church of Deals. Okay. I'm just going to put that with the promo when we review the cards. All right, let's open the Italian pack. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to name a lot of these cards based off of just the art. Evangel of something. Explora. That's like, yeah, I can't even read Italian, so my wife would be overjoyed. She knows a little tiny bit of Italian, so I don't know what any of these arts are. I haven't opened Dominaria before, so you probably know better than I do. I know this guy. But let me know if there's any of these cards that are actually valuable from the Italian set. I'm not going to go through these with the review because I simply can't read them. I might do a video on it later. All right, Magic Masters 25. All right. Chartooth Cougar, God's Willing, Diabolic Edict, Arcane Denial, Ember Weaver, Pacifism, Phyrexian Ghoul, Ghost Ship, Disenchant, Lull, Valor and Akros, Twisted Image, Sigh of the Shinobi, Living Wish, Urg Raiders, and we got a Woof. All right, so we've opened all of our packs. Those who want to just watch me flip through cards to see what's inside the boxes have done so. We are going to start reading every single one of the cards, reading all the text, everything. The Goose Mother X Green Blue Legendary Creature Bird Hydra. The Goose Mother enters with X+1+ encounters on it. When the Goose Mother enters, create half X food tokens rounded up. Whenever the Goose Mother attacks, you may sacrifice a food. If you do, draw a card. Excellent for food decks if you can fit blue in there. Excellent for +1+ encounters. Excellent for Hydras. And excellent for birds. That's probably where this card's going to go. This card's likely going to go with my bird deck, especially having a Way for Life game. Aether Drift. We already saw that token. Tokens don't really matter. Blossoming Sands. Excellent dual land. You gain 1 life for entering. This isn't the one where you lose a life for tapping. So this isn't as great as most of your other lands that enter untapped, but nonetheless, it's a dual land. Spire Motorcycle. Mech Cycle. 4 colorless and a red. Artifact Vehicle. Haste. Exhaust, tap another untapped mount or vehicle you control. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each mount and or vehicle you control other than this vehicle. Awesome, that's cool. I've been considering making a vehicle mount deck, so that's worthwhile. Mendicant Core Guidelight. 1 white and a blue. Legendary artifact creature robot. Mendicant's core power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. Wow. Start your engines and max speed. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may pay 1 if you do copy it. Wow, that is absolutely insane. That might be my Azorius commander. I've been wanting to make a deck of every color combination. Pace Setter Paragon. 2 colorless and a red. Creature, human pilot. Exhaust. 2 colorless, and 2 of any color, and a red, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It gains double strike until end of turn. You can do that on somebody else's turn, so you can make a 3/4 with double strike on somebody's turn. For 3 mana, that's not that great, but Rocketeer Boost Buggy, a red and a green artifact vehicle. When this vehicle attacks, create a treasure token, exhaust 3. This vehicle becomes an artifact creature, put a +1/+1 counter on it. So you can have a 4/3. All right. Kalrina, Coral Tyrant, 1 colorless and a blue. No text, no abilities, but it is a 0/8. So that's always nice to have in hand if you just want a blocker that you can get raw mana for. This is awesome. And compared to some other cards like, I believe there's a wall that I have that costs 3 mana, 2 blue and 1 colorless, and it's a 0/7. But it does have flying, although it has defender. So, I mean, it's nice to just have a body that you can block with, especially in mono blue. Detention Chariot, 4 colorless and 2 white, artifact vehicle. When this creature enters, exile target artifact or creature an opponent controls until this vehicle leaves the battlefield. Interesting. Harder to remove because it's not a creature, depending on what color your opponents are running. And you can also cycle it for a white. It is crew 3, which is a little steep for most of your vehicles, but it is also a 6/6. Wreckage Witcherfolk, 1 colorless and a black. Flying when this creature enters, surveil 2. It's also an artifact creature, great for recursion like with Muldrotha. You can have artifact or creature be the type you're picking. The fact that it's also 2 mana for a 1/3 flyer is not bad at all. Wreck Remover, 4 colorless, artifact creature, construct. Whenever this creature enters or attacked, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard, you gain 1 life. Okay, so if you want to remove 1 card every turn, it's also a 3/4, and you have the option to cycle it. This would be a great card for a colorless deck. Grimbauble, 1 black, artifact. When this artifact enters, target creature and opponent controls gets -2/-2 until end of turn. That's a pretty good rate. You can't cast this as though it had flash, so it can't be as reactive as, I believe it's Feed the Cycle. There's a card that for 1 black at instant speed, you can give a creature -1/-1 until end of turn. So that being said, you lose the speed, but you still have the same amount of mana, but also you can sack it to Surveil 2, so it gives you a little bit more optability with it. End Rider Catalyzer, 1 colorless and a red creature, human warrior. Start your engines, max speed, tap for 2 red. Excellent ramp piece. It's also 3/1, so that's not bad at all. Turn 1 or 2, you can play this guy, and the next thing you know, you have 2 mana. Excellent mono red card. Spot Cycle Scouter, 1 colorless and a white artifact vehicle. When this vehicle enters, scry 2, and it's also crew 1. Not too bad for the mana cost. I mean, you get to scry equal to the amount of mana that you pay, and you also get a vehicle that you can crew. It's a 3/2. I mean, not bad for mono white. I don't know where I would use this, but Spectral Interference, 1 colorless and a blue instant, counter target artifact or creature spell unless its controller pays 4. Nice steep price for playing a counter spell. Kind of reminds me of there is a bird one. I don't know if it's called Dazzling Denial, but it counters a spell if you can, and they can pay 2 unless you control a bird, in which it's 4. And then Gibrick Omnivore, it's a 1 colorless and a green for a 3/2. Nothing too special. All right, on to the next one. We're going to go with the Duskmourn. Jump Scare, 1 white instant. Until end of turn, target creature gets +2/+2, gains flying, and becomes a horror enchantment creature in addition to its other types. the flavor text is just boo. I think that's actually not bad at all. You can use this to defend. You can use this to interact with enchantments. There's a lot of things you can do with making a creature an enchantment. So I wonder what people run this in and how they optimize it. And for 1 mana, this is pretty versatile. If you want to make somebody else's creature an enchantment and then use removal on it. So if you have a spell that it's at instant speed that can remove an enchantment, that might work. Yeah, I'm curious to see how people would use this. Turn Inside Out, 1 red, instant. Target creature gets +3/+0 till end of turn. When it dies this turn, manifest Dread. Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put 1 onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature and the other into your graveyard. Turn it face up anytime for its mana cost if it's a creature card. Cool, so it's like morphing, but you get to select. So for 1 red mana, that's actually not bad. Murder. We all know what murder is. 1 colorless and 2 black. Destroy target creature at instant speed. Acrobatic Cheerleader. 1 colorless and a white. Creature, human survivor. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Acrobatic Cheerleader is tapped, put a flying counter on it. This ability triggers only once. That's awesome. And then I'm sure that, oh, so you can't really transfer that counter to another creature, because even if you do transfer the counter to another creature, it still only triggers once. So, I mean, if you're proliferating, sure, but if you're not, I mean, it just becomes a creature with flying if it's tapped. So, not the greatest card, but still neat. Winter's Intervention. 1 colorless and a black. Instant. Whenever Winter's Intervention deals 2 damage to target creature and you gain 2 life. Not bad. Not terrible, but I mean, not necessarily the most insane thing in the world. Meat Locker. 2 colorless and a blue, or Drowned Diner. 3 colorless and 2 blue. Enchantment Room. You may cast either half. That door unlocks on the battlefield as a sorcery. You may pay mana cost of a locked door to unlock it. So you can put one down and then you can pay for the other. Interesting. When you unlock this door, tap up to 1 target creature and put 2 stun counters on it. When you unlock this door, draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Okay, interesting. It gives you options in your hand, so that's not bad at all. I think rooms kind of get a little, I don't know. It seems like they're trying to put an instant or sorcery on an enchantment, because a lot of the times it only happens once. So, Cautious Survivor, 3 colorless and a green. Creature, Elf Survivor. At the beginning of your second main phase, if Cautious Survivor is tapped, you gain 2 life. Okay, interesting. Conductive Machete, 4 colorless. Artifact Equipment. When Conductive Machete enters, manifest Dread. Then attach Conductive Machete to that creature. Equipped creature gets +2/+1. So in other words, you get a 4/3. And you get to avoid paying the equip cost. So it's, I mean, if you're trying to dig for a creature and you're trying to work with turn face up combo and synergy, this would be an interesting card, and it lets you get more of an advantage than just manifesting the top card of your library. I don't really play manifest decks, so this isn't really something that I would use, but this is a cool card if you do play with those morph abilities. Another room, Defiled Crypt, 3 colorless and a black. That says whenever one or more cards leave your graveyard, create a 2/2 black horror enchantment creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Okay, so that's acting more like an enchantment because it's a continuous effect. And then Cadaver Lab, 1 black. When you unlock this door, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Wow, for 1 black mana. Most spells run 1 black mana rate per creature to return from your graveyard to your hand, but the fact that you also get an enchantment that can make other tokens based off of pulling things out of your graveyard, I think that makes this pretty competitive to a lot of those cards that return creatures to your hand from graveyard. Stay Hidden, Stay Silent, 1 colorless and a blue. Enchant creature. When Stay Hidden, Stay Silent enters, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. 4 colorless and 2 blue. Shuffle enchanted creature into its owner's library, then manifest Dread. Activate only as a sorcery. So, interesting. For 2 mana, that's not bad for keeping a creature tapped, but I don't use that morph mechanic that much. Altenac, the Thrice Called. 5 colorless and 2 green. Wow. Legendary creature, Insect Beast. You don't see those paired too often. Trample. Whenever Altenac, the Thrice Called, becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, draw a card. Okay. 1 colorless and a green. Discard Altenac, the Thrice Called. Return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So if you're returning him to your hand, if you are... yeah, he's probably better in the 99 than as a commander, unless you're returning him to your hand. I am probably going to put this with the Edge of Eternity's Insect Precon that I've disassembled. I'm making it a land recursion deck. This would be an excellent piece to that because it shares that insect type. Undead Sprinter, 1 black and 1 red. Creature, zombie, trample, haste. You don't see red in a zombie too much, and you don't see haste in a zombie too much, so this is cool. You may cast Undead Sprinter from your graveyard if a non-zombie creature died this turn. Cool. If you do, Undead Sprinter enters with a +1/+1 counter on it. So you can get a 3/3 with trample haste if another creature, a non-zombie, died. So this kind of urges you to play with non-zombie creatures or kill your opponent's creatures. Either way, it works with Rakdos. I think this is actually really cool. There's a lot of things you could probably do with this, especially if you're doing +1/+1 counters. That's a cool planes. Nice borderless plains. Gives that aura of just creepiness a little bit. Flood Farm Verge. Add a white or add a blue. Activate only if you control a plains or an island. So works with dual lands, and it enters untapped. So I'd imagine this is actually sought after a little bit. All right, and that's our manifest token. So that is House of Horrors. Let's go to Edge of Eternities. All right, 1 white artifact creature, robot soldier, 3 and a white. Tap another target creature. This ability costs 2 less to activate if you control a creature with a +1/+1 counter on it. So you can pay 1 and a white to tap another creature by tapping this dude. Not too bad. It's a 1/1, but you get a turn 1 play. So Peregrine Beckoner, 4 colorless and a black. Creature horror. When this creature enters until end of turn, another target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, and you can warp it. So you can get 2 enter the battlefield triggers in black. I think that's actually really cool for mono black decks that want your commander to enter the battlefield, or just creatures to enter the battlefield more than once. Cryogen Relic, 1 colorless and a blue artifact. When this artifact enters or leaves the battlefield, draw a card. One colorless and a blue, sacrifice this artifact, put a stun counter on up to 1 target tap creature. So you actually get a fairly good rate. You get to draw a card and you get to put a stun counter on another creature. You get 2 and 1 for an artifact. This is pretty good early game if you're playing less of a deck that puts creatures out early and you want to play more reactive like blue wants to. Galactic Wayfarer, 2 colorless and a green creature, human scout. When this creature enters, create a land or token. Cut, dry, simple, and you also get a 3/3. Caravan Skywarden, 4 colorless and a red creature, Kavu Soldier, reach. At the beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent entered the battlefield this turn or a spell was warped this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and it's already a 4/5. Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay. Embrace Oblivion, 1 black, sorcery. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, destroy target creature or spacecraft. So, I mean, spacecrafts came out with Edge of Eternity, so I understand them expanding the capabilities of destruction. And this kind of reminds me of Lash of the Balrog. It doesn't give you that choice to pay the additional 4 to do that, and it's also at sorcery speed. So. Command Bridge. This land enters tapped. When this land enters, sacrifice it unless you tap an untap permanent you control. Tap to add 1 mana of any color. So, yes, it is a land that enters tapped, but it is also a land that taps for 1 mana of any color. I think this is pretty nice. And you can tap an untap permanent, which can be a lot of things. You wouldn't want this to be your first land unless you have nothing else to play. Yeah, neat. Siege Ship Impact, 1 colorless and a green, instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment if its mana value was 2 or less. Create a land or token. Okay. Naturalize kind of just says destroy target artifact or enchantment. It doesn't restrict you by the mana value of that permanent, but this does allow you to create a land or token. So if you're in green, but you're not playing the most advantageous landfall, and you also want some destruction, but you want some ramp, this is a good way to do both, especially early game. Dubious Delicacy, 2 colorless and a black artifact. Food, interesting. Flash, when this artifact enters, up to 1 target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. Wow, that's awesome. 2 colorless and tap, sacrifice this artifact, you gain 3 life. 2 tap, sacrifice this artifact, target opponent loses 3 life. But the fact that when it enters, another creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn, it makes this a very versatile card. Ruinous Rampage, 1 colorless and 2 red, sorcery, choose 1. Ruinous Rampage deals 3 damage to each opponent. Okay. Exile all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. So take out those ramp pieces. Gigastorm Titan, 4 colorless and a blue creature elemental. This spell costs 3 less to cast if you've cast another spell this turn. So turn 3 you could get this out, because it'd be a blue and a colorless if you've cast another spell. So turn 3 you could play a 1-drop and get this guy out. He's a 4/4. I mean, for 2 mana you can't really beat that. The Dominion Bracelet. This one's pretty exciting. 2 colorless. Legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has 15. Exile the Dominion Bracelet. You control target opponent during their next turn. This ability costs X less to activate, where X is this creature's power. Activate only as a sorcery. So if you're playing this in a big stompy deck and you want to control somebody else's turn, normally that's a black thing or a blue thing. Maybe, Maybe there's a white card that does that, but the fact that this is a colorless artifact, that you can put this in any deck that might want to do that. You could do this in mono green, and then you can use all that removal, and you can use all those other cards that you've been wanting to out of somebody's hand, all at the cost of their mana, at their expense. And guess what? You have big stompy creatures, which makes this less to activate anyway. So for potentially, like you're playing Galta, you can get Galta out pretty dang quick. For a total of 3 mana plus whatever is remaining. So 3 plus another 3, because Galta's a 12/12. So for 6 mana, you could control somebody during their next turn. Yes, you have to exile it, but it can fit in any color. Really cool artifact. Cryogen Relic, we already saw one of those. Foil Mountain and Lander Token. Awesome. Next, let's do Foundations. Sure Strike. 1 colorless and a red instant. Target creature gets +3/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. That's not that bad. The fact that it gives first strike, I actually have this in one of my decks. I have it in my Zagras Thief of Heartbeats because my creatures have Death Touch. So because he gives all my creatures Death Touch, I can give a creature first strike out of nowhere and immediately take care of a threat, especially if my creature has Reach. There's tons of good mana value creatures that you can get with Reach just for having that one keyword. If you give it +3/+0 and first strike, you can take care of pretty much anything with Death Touch. Fake Your Own Death, excellent card. 1 colorless and a black. Instant until end of turn. Target creature gets +2/+0 and gains when this creature dies. Return to the battlefield tapped on its owner's control, and you create a treasure token. So effectively, for 1 mana, you can do this. You just need that additional mana because you're creating a token. But then that also synergizes with any sacrifice triggers. That synergizes with any artifact triggers. So that's pretty cool. Bite down, 1 colorless and a green instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Really excellent card at instant speed. 2 mana. You can take out it lets you target not only a creature but a planeswalker, and it deals damage. It doesn't fight. So your creature doesn't have much risk. If your creature has Death Touch, if your creature has some other ability that when it deals damage, that's even better. Fleeting Distraction, 1 blue, instant. Target creature gets -1/-0 until end of turn, and you also draw a card. Excellent rate. Normally the rate's 2. Make your move. 2 colorless and a white, instant. Destroy target artifact, enchantment, or creature with power 4 or greater. I don't know how you destroy an enchantment with power 4 or greater, but Icewind Elemental, 4 colorless and a blue. Creature Elemental, flying. When this creature enters, draw a card, then discard a card. Actually, I just realized this. Make your move can remove vehicles because vehicles have power. So even if it's not a creature at that time, if it has power 4 or greater, you can remove it. So this is actually a little bit better than I thought. When this creature enters, draw a card, then discard a card. 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. It's not that impressive, but it's a card. Sanguine Siphoner, 1 colorless and a black. Creature, vampire, warlock. When this creature attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. You have to attack trigger, so that's the problem. You have to reach combat and you have to be able to attack with this creature. It doesn't have haste. Not really CDH, but I mean, if you're working with attack triggers, doubling them maybe, putting in Ignition. It's also 1/3, so you can be a little bit more aggressive because you're more focused on making them lose the life and gaining the life than you are really doing damage with the creature. Savannah Lions, 1 colorless for a 2/1, no other abilities. Plain simple, clear cut and dry, nothing too special, but it's a turn 1 move. Wardens of the Cycle, 1 colorless, black and 2 green. Creature, elf, warlock. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, choose 1, you gain 2 life, or you draw a card and you lose 1 life, and it's also a 3/4. So you get a 3/4 for 4 mana. That's not terrible, but the fact that you can choose to gain life or draw a card if a creature dies, that's not bad at all. Self-Reflection, 4 colorless and 2 blue. Sorcery, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control, and you can also flashback it. This is great for mill decks. If you're milling yourself, putting cards in your graveyard, you have access to it even cheaper than what the original spell's cost is. Felling Blow, 2 colorless and a green. Sorcery, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. The fact that you get to most spells that deal damage either cost 2 or 3 mana. We saw that other one, Bite Down, That only costed 2 mana, so I mean, I would consider that better, especially because it's at instant speed. But this one allows you to put a +1/+1 counter, which stays. Alicia, Who Laughs at Fate. I'm really excited about this card. 1 colorless and a black and a red. Legendary creature, human warrior. First strike. Whenever Alicia attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. At the beginning of your end step, if you attack this turn, return target creature card with mana value less than or equal to Alicia's power from your graveyard to the battlefield. You don't have to attack with her. It just has to be less than her power. This card is awesome, and she also has first strike. I don't know where to put this because it's just such a great card. It can go in multiple different things. I'd honestly call this card almost underrated. It's one of the most powerful Rakdos commanders that I see. She'd make a great commander, but she'd also be great in the 99, and I don't have a copy of this yet, so this is really exciting for me. Banishing Light, Borderless Swamp, but it's got Liliana on it, so that's cool. And our token. All right, next, Bloomburrow. We got our token right there. Consumed by Greed, 1 colorless and 2 black, instant. Gift a card. You can have somebody else draw a card. Target opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures they control. Wow. If the gift was promised, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. So, instant speed. Yes, you can make an opponent draw. You have to make an opponent draw a card to get the full effect, but for 3 mana, that's not bad at all. Mountain, borderless. Not borderless. Full art. Darkstar Augur. 2 colorless and a black creature. Bat Warlock. Offspring. You may pay an additional black as you cast it. You can create a 1/1 of this. Flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library and put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. Okay. This could actually work very well in my Baitor deck. It wants you to gain and lose life. Stocking the Pantry, 1 green, enchantment. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature you control, put a supply counter on Stocking the Pantry. 2 colorless, remove a supply counter from Stocking the Pantry, draw a card. That's actually not bad. Yeah, that's not bad. 2 mana to draw a card in green, and it's working with +1/+1 counters, plus the art's cute. Mouse Trapper, 2 colorless and a white. Creature, Mouse Soldier, Flash. Whenever Mouse Trapper becomes a target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, tap target creature an opponent controls. So if you're targeting him during your opponent's turns, this also works. I'd imagine that would be good with Boros cards, because red is very flashy, likes to play things on other people's turns that affect combat, that target creatures, like we saw previously in the Foundations booster with Sure Strike. 3 Tree Scribe, 1 colorless and a green creature frog druid. Whenever 3 Tree Scribe or another creature you control leaves the battlefield without dying, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. This is actually in my Abdel white-green pile. I plan on making an Abdel white-green deck that is focusing on blinking things on and off the battlefield and messing with +1/+1 counters and trample. Harnesser of Storms, 2 colorless and a red creature, Otter Wizard. Whenever you cast a non-creature or otter spell, you may exile the top card of your library. Until end of turn, you may play that card. This ability triggers only once each turn. So non-creature is really easy because you can play instants on other people's turns or things that have flash. And the fact that you can play it until end of turn. So you really want to be careful with your mana depending on what you're doing, especially if I don't know if that gives spells that it exiles the capability to be played with flash. That's an interesting question. I doubt it does, but it's possible. Pawn Prophet, 2 hybrid mana, green or blue for both. Creature, Frog Advisor. When Pawn Prophet enters, draw a card. And it's also a 1/1. Good rate. You also get a creature for it, and it's versatile for mana, so actually this isn't a bad card at all. Yes, blue is the draw card color, but the fact that you can pay blue or green or a combination of either, and you get a creature out of it. That's not bad at all. 3 Tree Root Weaver, 1 colorless and a green, and it also taps to add 1 mana of any color. Great Mana Dork. Might of the Meek, 1 red instant. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. It also gets +1/+0 until end of turn if you control a mouse, and you draw a card. Excellent red pick. 1 mana to draw a card in mono red. And yes, it has the mouse thing, but I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if you want the trample. That means you're probably putting it on a big creature anyway, but the fact that you get to draw a card for 1 red mana. Runaway Together, a lot of people know this one. 1 colorless and a blue instant. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players. Return those creatures to their owner's hands. This is great in Commander when you're playing with more than one opponent, because you can return 2 different creatures to their owner's hands. If you're down to just you and one other opponent, this loses its value significantly. But if you're playing a blink deck, or if you're playing a deck that cares about enter the battlefield triggers, this might not hurt you. Agate Blade Assassin, 1 colorless and a black, creature lizard assassin. Whenever Agate Blade Assassin attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's a lot like that vampire, actually. It's the same exact mana value, and it's the same exact ability, and it's the same exact power toughness. It's just different creature types. Interesting. Waxwing Witness, 3 colorless and a white, creature, bat cleric, flying vigilance. Whenever you gain or lose life during your turn, Waxwing Witness gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Another great pick for Baitor. I don't have it in there just because I'm not looking at small instances of gaining or losing life. I'm looking at big, splashy, gain a lot of life, lose a lot of life combos. Dire Downdraft, 3 colorless and a blue instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if it targets an attacking or tapped creature, so it would be 2 colorless and a blue. Target creature's owners puts it on the top or bottom of their library. I believe the person who casts the spell gets to choose. All right, now let's go to Innistrad. Showcase, Mountain, really cool. Love that. Bloody Betrayal, 2 colorless and a red sorcery. Gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap that creature. It gains haste until end of turn, and you create a blood token. So you can discard a card and draw a card by sacrificing the artifact that it creates. Most of these spells cost 3 mana anyway, so the fact that you get to create a token, and it's a token that can be sacrificed, it works well with sacrifice triggers, and it works good with filtering things into your graveyard. Ceremonial Knife, 1 colorless. Artifact equipment, whenever equipped creature gets +1/+0 and has whenever this creature deals combat damage, create a blood token. I don't really play with blood tokens that much, so that isn't that relevant to me. Blood Servitor, 3 colorless. Artifact creature construct, when Blood Servitor enters the battlefield, create a blood token. 2/2. Not something that's incredibly special. 3 mana for 2/2 isn't that great. And creating blood tokens just aren't all that great, especially because you have to discard and then draw. If it was draw and then discard, it'd probably be better. But it's a red thing, and I guess red things kind of have to get the worst of the worst. Bleed Dry, 2 colorless and 2 black. Instant. Target creature gets -13/-13 until end of turn. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. Wow, that's awesome. Most cards, they say, I think it's Tragic Slip. Target creature gets -13/-13 until end of turn. Only if a creature died this turn, I believe. But yes, this is 3 more mana. But it's also at instant speed, and you can deal with things. Rending Flame, 2 colorless and a red instant. Rending Flame deals 5 damage to a target creature or planeswalker. If that permanent is a spirit, Rending Flame also deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. Interesting. 5 damage for 3 mana. It's not that great, but it's not terrible. Wandering Mind, 1 colorless, a blue, and a red. Flying, a creature horror flying. When Wandering Mind enters the battlefield, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Top 6 is not bad, actually. That's not bad at all. Okay. Radiant Grace, 1 white. Enchantment, Aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and has vigilance for 1 mana. That's awesome. When enchanted creature dies, return Radiant Grace to the battlefield, transformed under your control, attached to target opponent. Huh. Radiant Restraints. Enchant player. Creatures enchanted player controls enter the battlefield tapped. Wow. All for 1 white mana? Dang. That's actually really cool. I've never heard of this card, so that, like, this card better be worth at least $5. That's awesome. Lantern Bearer, I have like 15 of these. 1 white, flying, and you can disturb it from your graveyard. 2 colorless and a white. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has flying. If it goes into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So, kind of, you lose it if it's gone. Unholy Officiant, 1 white. Creature, vampire, cleric, vigilance. 4 colorless and a white. Put a +1/+1 counter on Unholy Officiant. Not that great, but it's a 1-drop, and it has vigilance. So, I mean, 1-drop for a 1/2 with vigilance, that's not bad. And you also get a vampire. So, Edgar Markov players, you know what's up. Howling Moon, 2 colorless and a green. Enchantment at the beginning of combat on your turn, target wolf or werewolf you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, create a 2/2 green wolf creature token. I know where this is going. This is going in my Gruul vampire deck. I'm sorry, not vampire, werewolf deck. Consuming Tide, 2 colorless and 2 blue. Sorcery, each player chooses a non-land permanent they control. Return all non-land permanents not chosen this way to their owner's hands. Wow. Then you draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in their hand than you. So if you're playing a Tron deck, this is the card. You can just return everything but the one commander that you have. So interesting. Orzhova, the Church of Deals. Land. You can tap to add a colorless, or you can pay 3, a white and a black. Target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Very Orzhov-y. Expensive for the ability, but the fact that it's on a land is cool. And there's our art card. And Welcoming Vampire, I put that was the promo for the Chaos box. But Welcoming Vampire is still decent. 2 colorless and a white, flying. Whenever 1 or more creatures with power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's also a 2/3. I think this is pretty comparable to Mentor of the Meek. You don't have to pay mana into it whenever a 1/1 enters, and it gives you a wider range. It gives you 1/1 and power 2. It's also a 2/3 flyer, so I think it's pretty versatile compared to Mentor of the Meek, but I mean it's especially a combo piece with vampire decks. I actually gave my copy to my friend because he built a vampire deck. Now I have one back, which is awesome. I think that card's awesome. All right, now the 25, Commander Masters 25. Chartooth Cougar, 5 colorless and a red. Creature Cat Beast, and you can pay 1 red. Chartooth Cougar gets +1/+0 until end of turn. You can also Mountain Cycle. Okay, for a mountain card. It doesn't specify basic. So you can search for any mountain. That's probably why it's in this. It's also 4/4. So I mean, you get a body out of it if you already have the mana that you need and you've met your mana curve. But you can also dump mana into it to make it bigger. But the fact that you can search for any mountain makes this card pretty awesome. God's Willing, 1 white. Instant. Target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, and you also scry 1. That's excellent for 1 mana. Diabolic Edict, 1 colorless and a black. Target player sacrifices a creature. Excellent on turn 2 when somebody has 1 creature on the board, and it's a problem. Arcane Denial, 1 colorless and a blue. Instant. Counter target spell. A controller may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Okay, so yes, you're putting cards into your opponent's hand, but you can counter target spell. And it can be for a blue and 1 mana of any color. So instead of having to pay 2 blue for the classic counter spell, you can draw a card. Yes, your opponent nets 2, but you can counter target spell. So this isn't that bad. Ember Weaver, 2 colorless and a green. Creature Spider Reach. As long as you control a red permanent, Ember Weaver gets +1/+0 and has first strike. First strike. Yes. There's, I forget the name of the card. I want to say Y'shtola, but I think that's wrong. Or Timera the Weaver. Yes, I think that's it. It's a June Spider. This would be great. I've been thinking more and more about disassembling my Shelob deck and making a deck with her as the commander and giving my creatures Death Touch, First Strike, stuff like that. Pacifism. 1 colorless and a white. Enchantment Aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. For 2 mana. That's not bad. Phyrexian Ghoul. 2 colorless and a black. Creature Zombie. Sacrifice a creature. Phyrexian Ghoul gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So you can actually sack as many creatures as you want without having to pay any mana. And instead of getting +1/+1 like a lot of creatures want, it gets +2/+2. That's actually pretty awesome. And you get those sack triggers, and you get a sack outlet. So this is actually a really cool card, and it's a zombie. It's a zombie, even though it's a Phyrexian, so that makes sense for it being different, but I like that art. It's pretty cool art. All right, Ghost Ship. 2 colorless and 2 blue. Creature Spirit. Flying, and you can pay 3 blue to regenerate Ghost Ship. And it's a 2/4. So there's an enchantment, I think it's called Puppet Master. You can pay 3 blue to enchant the creature, and then you can pay another 3 blue to return it to your hand. I believe it's hand. It may be battlefield, and you can only activate that when the creature dies. But the fact that you can just have a 2/4 flyer that can regenerate turn after turn, that's not bad, especially as a blocker. And it's a ghost ship. It's a ghost ship. It's a spirit boat. This is going to probably go in my Pirates deck. My Pirates deck is a bracket one, so it doesn't really matter about synergy. It's more aesthetic. Disenchant. 1 colorless and a white instant to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Always an excellent white staple. Lull. 1 colorless and a green. Instant. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, and you can also cycle it to draw a card. Fog, but you can also... I'm sorry, not Fog. There's another one like Fog. Fog Patch. It's same mana, and it says prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, but you can also cycle it. So this is objectively better than Fog Patch. Pretty cool card. I'm definitely going to use it. I don't know where, but I am. Valor and Akros. 3 colorless and a white enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Whoa, I know where this is going. This is going in a blink deck. Get those creatures on the battlefield and buff the whole board. Twisted Image, 1 blue. Instant. Switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn and draw a card. Okay, so those aggro green and or red decks, probably red in particular, that you see a lot of power over toughness, you can swap that. Or also if you're playing against somebody who's using walls and those creatures have 0 power, this would actually be incredibly effective against my wall deck, because all of the walls, every single one of the walls has, every single one of the creatures except for saving 2, each one has power 0, so that I can play cards that say each player may pay life for each creature they control with power X or greater, and you can choose the number. So it's all about having 0 power and wiping the board again and again, and dealing combat damage equal to toughness. So Twisted Image would actually be an excellent counter to my deck. Sigh of the Shinobi, 1 colorless. Artifact equipment. A quick creature gets +1/+1. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Sigh of the Shinobi to it. Neat. Cool. Any of those cards that say it gets this ability or gets this and that for being equipped, this is excellent for that, because if you draw into one that's better than the other, you can always move this, and I mean, you can put it down for 1 mana and then play the creature instead of paying the equip cost, so that's cool. Living Wish. 1 colorless and a green. Sorcery. You may choose a creature or land card you own from outside the game. Reveal that card, put it into your hand, exile Living Wish. Wow. I bet this is banned. I'm willing to bet, because most cards that let you put something from outside the game into your hand are not allowed. But this is a really cool card, and a creature or land. So there's a lot of things you can do with that. And then Urg Raiders, 1 colorless and a black creature human warrior. At the beginning of your end step, if Urg Raiders didn't attack this turn, Urg Raiders deals 2 damage to you unless it came under your control this turn. It's also a 2/3 for 2 mana. I mean, it's human warrior, so it wants to attack. I love the art. I like that it's just silhouette on a sand dune, and the sky is mostly the thing that catches the eye. I don't know where I would really use this. I mean, if I'm making a warrior deck, sure, awesome. I don't have a warrior deck at the moment, so this might go into a Zergo deck. We'll see. And our whip token. So that's all the cards that we have for today. I hope you enjoyed watching. This felt a whole lot quicker. I've been working on reading text faster. That being said, I didn't read through the Italian cards. I don't speak Italian. I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Please consider following. I hope that you have a great day. God bless.